dig it? Can you dig it?
Ladies, gentlemen, friends, foes, lurkers, regulars, GMO people, organic people.
Boiler room. Inbound. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes, lurkers and regulars, GMO people, organic people, welcome to the Boiler Room. I'm your host, Mike Call Science Hesher. I'm Brian McLean, broadcasting live out of Central Texas on this May the 15th of 2025. Here we find ourselves in 2025, a decade after the launch of this program, the Boiler Room. And you know, when Patrick Henningsen said, hey, you should host a show here at ACR, I thought, okay, well, I'm not exactly sure what the theme is going to be, but I got enough broadcasting hours under my belt to, know how to do it and get started. But it became pretty clear within, I'd say, the first 10 episodes, the first dozen episodes, that one of the major ongoing themes was going to be, and has proved to be, that we as citizens of planet Earth, as we approach the membrane that is the massive paradigm shift that we are going through or about to go through into one world government, technocracy, that kind of thing, right, is narrative management, psychological operations, propaganda, and how those all mesh with high technology. And high technology can be anything from things that are hard for us to comprehend or conceive of, like when we try to talk about Palantir, a massive piece of big data software that most of us don't have access to in any way, shape, or form. But government entities do, large corporate entities do, intelligence entities do, and on and on. That theme has been something that has run through this show for its entire time. And I have been fortunate enough to spend the last decade on this program, and even longer, just in my circles here in alternative and independent media, to meet just such a huge and meet and work with and become friends with and colleagues with such a huge circle of people that are concerned with that same thing. And it permeates like every topic that we deal with in the news and in our doom scroll. Just how much of this is narrative? How much of this is completely freaking fake? How much of this is devoid of enough context for me to discuss it with my friends and family and coworkers, or even in my own head, right? Like, do I even have enough information to really have an opinion about hashtag the current thing, whatever it is? So that is sort of, it didn't take long for that to become a thing on Boiler Room. And I remember not that many episodes in, I don't remember who exactly I was sitting there with. I think it was probably Spore and Daniel Spalding and Jay Dyer and some other folks, perhaps. But started talking about some of the broadcasts that we had seen come out of like Desert Storm and some of the early Middle Eastern conflicts, and going back to them, and looking at them and discovering that some of these were completely staged, some of these were completely faked, literally faked, staged, fake news. Before a populist like Donald Trump came along and popularized, pun intended, the word fake news, we were way out ahead of that. And to have Donald Trump come along and have the hashtag or whatever, bring into the common political lexicon the term fake news, felt like such a huge thing at the time. But is it really that huge, when people like us, just normal internet users like us here in the boiler room, can see that, can pick that pattern up, and then take it outward from there? Like, take that pattern, faked news, faked narrative, who, what, when, where, why, who does it benefit, follow the money, all the stuff that goes with it, right? There's the whole methodology, the whole taxonomy of lies and propaganda, and the whole methodology that we've sort of developed over the last decade of saying, oh, there it is, there's the hallmarks of it, boom, 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 this is what we know, this is what we know is not true, this is who we know is in charge of this narrative, this is who it benefits, little Occam's razor in there, because that's the whole thing with this particular media study and media analysis. It takes years sometimes for the vindication and for the proof to come out. But it sure has seemed to be a lot of that coming out over the past few years here. And I go back to that moment where Donald Trump coined the phrase, if you will, fake news. We always had a much more nuanced sort of take on that. It's not just a bumper sticker that you can apply fake news. I mean, it is now, but you do yourself and your fellow brothers and sisters a disservice by just applying the bumper sticker and moving on, unless you're like well versed in this stuff and just beyond it. You do yourself a disservice because there's so much more to it. There's so much more to it. And the thing that is really cool 10 years into this this experiment, this journey, this analysis, this hangout that we've called the Social Rejects Club, so many people have gravitated towards our very same methods that we use here. Looking at the who, the when, the where, the why, the how, the who benefits, the where did the money go, the what is the mindset of the Five Eyes on this topic, whatever it may be. What is the mindset of the CFR on this topic? What is the mindset of secret societies on this topic? It's been wonderful to see that blossom. I don't know if it's blossomed fast enough and aggressive enough, but hey, it has been fantastic to be here watching it, to be a part of it, and to see our thesis in media analysis be proven correct. That the amount of skepticism that one needs just to survive the black pilling of the doom scroll, and the amount of levity one needs to acquire or hold on to, the amount of gallows humor one needs to be able to keep in their mind and in their heart to watch this stuff go down year in and year out is very big. And with that, I would like to introduce some of my friends here that help me do that, help me keep my head on straight. We'll start with Mr. Rex Cars here. Rex Cars, what's up? Welcome to the boiler room, man. How you doing?
Okay, Rex Cars, he's related to some of my other friends, of course. Phineas, Loophole, Esquire, and many others who look just like me. At any rate, my many personalities, we like to add levity to this rather heavy topic you're talking about. Good introduction, by the way, Hash. Um, one of the things that I'll briefly comment because there's others you want to bring in here. One of the things I've always done is I've kept my eyes mostly on the fundamental gears of what makes things work, particularly the monetary system. Um, the establishment puts out a lot of lies, fakery, exaggerations, misdirection, you name it. And we have to read the tea leaves on those things and try and discern what's going on, despite all the wag the dog, despite all the back channeling. But one of the things that they're open about, relatively open about, is the money machinations. The Federal Reserve of Chicago has put out booklets called Money Mechanics. And so the Fed and other banking entities within the Fed's orbit have described in considerable detail, sometimes painstaking detail, how they work. And I used to work with Mickey Paletta. He ran the Citizens Reform Center, as it was once called, in Pennsylvania near Harrisburg. This is a shout out to Mickey to the hereafter. He passed away about a year and a half ago. So I'll kind of dedicate my appearance tonight to Mickey in this case. But I used to read all these long analysis he did based on the banking system's own revelations. And he wanted me to edit his books and edit his court filings. And I edited them for language and I edited them for content. And in the process, hours and hours and hours, I learned not only about lawsuits regarding financial institutions, but I learned money mechanics. So by learning things like that, what happens when a bank makes a loan, or the Federal Reserve's relationship to the government, you may not understand the daily events, but if you understand the basic machine, the schematic of the machine, then it makes it a little easier to understand the events you're seeing, at least as to what the ultimate goals might be. And that's the preservation of that financial system at all costs. And so that's always helped me, is to know the basic gears, the basic transmission of what they're doing. And then even if I'm a little lost on the details, at least I've got a handle on it in general. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Mark, this is Mark Anderson, everybody. If you're new here, he goes by Rex Cars tonight, but this is really the Truth Hound, Mark Anderson, who can be found on Fridays at ukcolumn.org. But, Mark, I was thinking, Randy J is going to join us tonight, and I know that Randy J wants to talk a little bit about the Jeffrey Epstein, the status of that, just what is it in 2025? Why is this the status in 2025? And just to like jump ahead or maybe just like shine a preview on my take on that, it's like the narrative that we've been given about that guy is all about the SA and the trafficking, right? Which are terrible, which are horrible. The amount of SA and trafficking going on in the world in the 21st century is a little bit mind-boggling, considering the sort of global mindset that we thought we were moving into, coming out of the 60s and the 70s, 80s, 90s, before the technology all really hit. It's kind of like, okay, we're getting more advanced, more evolved, we have more empathy and more sympathy. Yeah, we've got these clashes of civilizations and sort of proto holy wars going on in other countries, but most of us in the West, we're all moving towards a certain thing here. Well, it turns out we're not. It turns out we're actually going backwards at this point. And with back to the Epstein thing, it's like, well, everybody's focused on, oh well, who's the Johns, who was trafficked, who are the clients, where's the black book, where's all that. They all want this stuff, right? But it's like one of the most damning things about that guy's past is the financial part. There's so many vectors that could be explored if a government and a media and a legal system and a population that gave a crap, really wanted to sort this out. They would look at the relationship between him and JP Morgan. They would look at the relationships between him, the financial relationships, say much more than all the salacious emotional baggage that comes with SA and trafficking stuff. So I think I just want to underline what you're saying there about the importance of the financial aspects, because that's really I don't know how many pillars there are to being an elite lizard person, ghoul, blue-blooded Illuminati globalist, but I think the financial aspect is one of those pillars, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. It sounds cliche anymore, but follow the money.
Right. And you know what? It is cliche, and at the same time, it's not. It's meta. It's now a meta
Right.
thing. I'll give you an example for that too. You could do follow the money with lab leak and COVID 1984, right? As our buddy Jason Burmis calls it. And the money's right there, and the money supports the lab leak theory. But the problem is, maybe that was a breadcrumb trail, because there's nothing else actually that does support the lab leak theory other than the money trail. So it's like you get far enough down the rabbit hole, and all of a sudden your methods start to break down too, because the side that is purveying propaganda and narrative management is using your own methods against you.
Oh, absolutely. The establishment is very good at planting sub theories or items within the larger context that they hope people like you and I will bite into, and that it'll begin to distort our reporting and our commentary. So they'll plant these traps and snares out there, and they're very good at getting people to work against something that might actually benefit them. So they might get us to oppose something that they know actually would help us. And so they can flip things around. A very obvious example of that is when the federal income tax was passed in the early 20th century. They got it over the top by convincing the people that the income tax would hit the robber barons, that it would hit the super rich. But in fact, the super rich were behind the income tax. And then you ask, well, why would the super rich want an income tax? Because they already planned to create the tax exempt foundation and have an escape hatch, and then retrofit the income tax on the middle and lower classes over decades. That was the whole plan all along. So they got us to support something that we ought to have opposed, because we thought it would give the Rockefellers what they had coming, and the Morgans. But they were behind it because they needed to tax us in order to pay the debt, the interest on the debt that would come from the Federal Reserve, created the same year as the income tax. They're very good, and they're still that good. Don't kid yourself.
I know this dance. It's called the double inverted fart knocker twist. I learned it on Beavis and Butthead.
Yeah. But yeah, that they're very good at that. And so this lab leak thing could be another thing where, oh, it's a lab leak, and well, maybe it was, but maybe it wasn't.
Right. Maybe it was, but maybe lab leaks don't even exist. Maybe viruses don't even exist, and maybe there's no such way for a lab to do gain of function on a subatomic particle that nobody's ever seen before, and then say, oh, oops, and then it's all because airplanes and because noses and breathing, it spreads across the world in 6 weeks flat, like some sort of super thing. And oh, by the way, we don't have any cases of flu during the whole time we're being propagandized about that. And the death toll, all told mortality doesn't rise at all until 2021 and 2022. But we won't talk about that. 2020, it was just, same as the flu. So you can just see where this all goes and how easy it all is for us to be manipulated, man. And that financial aspect, it is very important. And it may be the long pole in the tent that crashes this whole thing, because economists pretty much agree this is not sustainable the way that we're rolling right now.
Oh yeah. One of the dynamics in the economy that is always going to be detrimental is that the rate of flow of prices always outdistances the ability of people to purchase the goods. So there's an ever widening gap between what things cost and what people have the ability to pay. And that gap just continually gets wider. It never gets smaller. So the treadmill always gets steeper and faster. And it's designed that way because it's economic slavery. We used to have chattel slavery. They said, the blacks were enslaved and all these things, and we ended slavery. We didn't even come close to ending slavery. We have got slavery a la mode right now. We have got the ultimate slavery, usury and interest-bearing debt ad infinitum, the ultimate universal slavery, black, white, brown, you name it. And that you can take home to the bank, forgive the pun.
Yeah. All varieties, man. Labor slavery, sex slavery. It's bananas. And then entire countries that are slavery countries now, like Libya, they told us they were going to liberate Libya, and now there's an open slave trade there. I mean, it's just completely bonkers. And of course, that's never talked about in the mass media.
Well, NATO has your best intentions at heart. So what? They bombed the shit out of it in 2011 or whenever that was, and reportedly destroyed one of the most efficient water systems known to man. I forget the name of it. The Great Waterway. There was a big name for it that supplied fresh water to that desert country in northern Africa, and I guess it was damaged or destroyed. But the place was bombed back a few centuries, and then we wonder why there's slavery and all sorts of trouble. So
yeah, exactly. All right, well, let me bring I'm going to bring Randy J on now and make sure I unmute him on my side. Hopefully he'll unmute on his side. And let's see here. Randy J, famous for once saying I'll eat my freaking vans on this show. Randy, what's up? Welcome to the Boiler Room.
Doing pretty good. My vans are still under lock and key. I haven't ate them yet. I hate to be a person that falls back on a bed or doesn't follow through or whatever. Maybe if I make bake a cake or something and decorate it like an advance thing, maybe I'll eat those. Yeah. I don't even want to say what the bet was about. We might get canceled. Or no, I'm kidding. But anyways,
if I recall, Randy, it was about a bang bang shoot 'em up event at an escuela of some sort, and we were saying, hey, if we're wrong about some of these things that we should be questioning, then Randy J will eat his goddamn vans.
Yeah, I that did happen. Yeah, well, not the eating the vans part, but yes, that is how the story goes. I was there. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Wow. Yeah, you know what? Thanks for the introduction and everything, but I was in listener mode. I mean, you two guys are were killing it. So, I mean, I know it's just an intro and all that, but I mean, I'll just quickly say here. You used I had to write it down. You used the phrase narrative management. And then Rex Cars went over, one of the, if not the mechanism, arguably, and I wouldn't argue against it, the mechanism to control people, money. You can't do anything. Don't leave home without it. You know what I mean? You can't do anything with or without it, unless you want to go off the grid, and good luck with that. Because even those people purchase stuff, time to time or whatever. There's people in the Amazon wearing Vans. You know what I mean? Like, it's everywhere now. So I got to just go back with intent. I got to fall back on intent. Well, why? And it's definitely all these laws, for the people and all that other stuff. I mean, conceptually it looks great, but when you just, follow the money, it will take you to stuff, and follow the intent. And we're seeing it now more than ever, as much as ever. It's always been there. What am I talking about? Everything that's for us, or hey, do this and do that, and well, you need this to do a job, or what? I mean, pick a subject that's top down to us, is to manage us at the end of the day. People and resource management, by who? Well, not by anybody on this call, and more than likely not anybody listening, because it's just regular people. We think maybe some gatekeepers, AI bots funneling this broadcast to an underground base somewhere, and maybe someone like that's listening. I don't know, but at the end of the day, it's all about managing us, and how much can they squeeze out of the sponge, out of the life force of the masses, but also keep the many from like turning their sights on the wizard behind the curtain, sort of a thing. The Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, pulling on the levers. And it's not a person, it's probably a group, and it's probably loosely no honor amongst thieves, sort of a thing. But at the end, they'll protect their status quo, which is in turn become our status quo. And right now it seems like, and this is what we're all talking about, stuff's going to go down, or something's going to happen, and it could be worlds collide in the future, maybe nearer than we think. Maybe it could get delayed, but it can't stand like this forever. And you just got to look at history. Everything goes through some cataclysmic changes every now and then. As scary as that might sound, it's just like an umpire calling balls and strikes, calling it like I see it. So, but hello, everybody. How's it going? Not to get too heavy.
Hey. No, it's great to have you, Randy. And for those of you out there watching us tonight on Rumble, X, and YouTube, Randy's actually dialing into the Alternate Current Radio soundboard. So that's why we've got this picture of him up here and not him inside of our StreamYard here. So don't get confused if you see Mark and I sitting here just staring into the distance while Randy's talking. But Ruckus just made us a cool Randy J graphic, so we'll throw that up there while Randy's talking. And speaking of Ruckus, Ruckus is with us also tonight. Ruckus, not a robot. What's up, dude? Welcome to the Boiler Room.
Oh, it still says not a robot. Well, that's fine, because I am still not a robot. So as soon as you see the not a robot anymore, be afraid, be very afraid. No, I'm just kidding. Because if I really was a robot, do you think I would take the not a robot off? No way. I would want to keep fooling all you silly, foolish humans. Looks like we lost somebody. Oh, okay, I get it. Because see, now I'm getting confused because there's 4 of us, but I only see 3. Actually, I see like 6 of us now, and I'm getting very confused.
Yeah, we've got disembodied voices.
Trump.
We've got the
Jeffrey,
GTA versions
of who's that now? That's RFK Jr. Cowboy. Giddy up, riding the good old syringe there. The miracle jabs. I've been having fun with making a lot of graphics lately. Not the least of which is for that Roundabout Ruckus thing that I do. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, that was great.
You gotta check this out. I made this badass graphic right here. This one showcases the fact that I was on the 3rd rail with Nature Boy. That was just up on Friday, and I've got that linked up on the Alternate Current Radio website now. And then very proud of this one. This is the one that I made for my roundabout appearances on Weaponized News, which I do make appearances there. It's hosted by Sam Cheney. I'm there every Monday. And if you notice, you see it's got a little Weaponized News sticker slapped up on the side of that ammo can travel ruckus rig, whatever the hell that thing is, right? Pretty cool, but that's kind of what I've been doing lately, making neat graphics. I, of course, make a bunch of the graphics for the Alternate Current Radio website, including for Mystical American Patriot Society and The Odd Man Out, which are two fantastic programs, which you should all be listening to when you're not listening to the Boiler Room, which is what we're doing here tonight. And I'm surrounded by a League of Giants this evening, so Ruckus is probably going to get quiet for this one. So I'll stop rambling now so we can get on and do the damn thing. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you with us tonight, dude. We've got Jeffrey McJepstein over here. We've got Abu Donald over there. I love the Abu Donald. Yes. Good stuff. And let's see. So Randy, it sounds like our connection's pretty good. I'm going to leave your mic open on my end, so feel free to ride the mute on your side if you need to, but the line sounds really good so far. And there's a good chance we may have a couple more drop-ins tonight, so we shall see. But Sport says hello to everybody, and she misses y'all and is looking forward to rejoining us here in the Boiler Room as soon as possible. We're doing some work on her studio, and she also has been working really hard on her new project, so that has her pretty busy. But she says hi to everybody, and she pulled this one for our icebreaker tonight for us. So it looks like just to open up with something interesting here and fun, I believe Brian S. Dropped us this one in the Discord. If you're not a member of our Discord, you should become one. But here is the headline. It's out of scipost.org. All right. I'm not familiar with that site, but I like it. Eric W. Dolan writes, psilocybin use has surged in the United States since 2019. The use of psilocybin, the active compound in so-called magic mushrooms. Why would you say so-called? They are most definitely magic. I get it. Turn of phrase. Has increased significantly in the United States since 2019, according to a new study published in the Annals of Internal Medicine. Drawing on data from 5 national sources, researchers found sharp increases in both lifetime and recent use, especially among adults with symptoms of anxiety, depression, and chronic pain. Psilocybin is a naturally occurring hallucinogen. For those of you who are uninitiated, found in certain species of mushrooms, it has attracted growing scientific and public attention due to promising early studies suggesting it may help treat depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and substance use disorders. Although not currently approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, psilocybin has entered clinical trials and has been decriminalized or legalized in parts of Oregon, Colorado, and several municipalities. I will add in multiple states to include California, where in Oakland, I think they've legalized it completely, even for recreational use. This shifting legal landscape has raised questions about whether broader public use is increasing and what the public health consequences might be. Oh, the consequences. Oh my gosh, people are going to be on magic mushrooms. Oh, what are we ever going to do? That's how could that be as bad as people that are zonked out, overdosed on SSRIs and pharmaceutical methamphetamines? I don't know. So this has been interesting, you guys, because there've been it's been kind of an ongoing thing, and it's still a Schedule 1 drug as far as the DEA is concerned here. So, you know, it's kind of like the marijuana thing, where you're seeing entire states, and municipalities saying, you know what, we're just not going to participate in this anymore. It doesn't mean you're safe if federal law enforcement knocks on your door, but we're just not going to do this anymore, like Oakland did, and Colorado and Oregon. So I don't know. They're researching this. They're looking at trends, and they have 5 data sources to examine psilocybin use. This is the part that I'm curious about. Like, how are you actually tracking this? So they say they have 5 sources tracking this between 2014 and 2023. The National Survey on Drug Use and Health, the Survey of Non-Medical Use of Prescription Drugs, Monitoring the Future, the National Poison Data System. How would you get information out of that on this? I would like to know. And the National Hospital Ambulatory Medical Center Care Survey. So the team aimed to track changes in who's using psilocybin, how often, and whether they're showing up in healthcare settings as a result. So these numbers have gone up. The increases are even more dramatic when looking at recent use. Adults aged 18 to 29, past year use rose 44% between 2019 and 2023 among adults 30 and older. So that's like Gen Xers and stuff, right? Elder millennials and Xers. It jumped 188%. And then by 2023, 2.1% of adults reported using psilocybin in the past year, more than the number who reported using cocaine, LSD, methamphetamine, or illegal opioids. Well, that's good. That sounds like an overall good thing, at least compared to those other ones. I don't know. What do you think, Rex Cars?
When you first mentioned it, Hesh, I was reminded of The Doors of Perception, a book that Aldous Huxley wrote. Of course, he's well known for writing Brave New World. His brother Julian Huxley was involved in the UN, and I looked it up just a minute ago because I couldn't remember, and that had to do partly with mescaline. And so I have a question: are psilocybin and mescaline similar drugs?
Yes, in a sense. I mean, in the sense that they have hallucinogenic qualities. If you were to ask a person who has done both, they would tell you that the experience was probably pretty different. The psilocybin mushroom experience is probably going to last between 6 and 8 hours, and the mescaline experience, it kind of depends where what the source of one's mescaline is. If it comes from a concentrate that someone made, your mileage will vary. But if you do it the traditional way, where you're taking the buttons off of the cactus and processing them and ingesting them the old-fashioned way, the way the shamans would want you to do it, you're gonna be on a much longer trip, maybe potentially more intense trip with a different vibe. But it's all sort of that in that same Doors of Perception realm.
Yeah, I guess I don't have a whole lot to say except what do you think is driving the trend? Um, I mean, yeah, you're seeing some legalization, so if you can do it, you will. There's that. You feel there's more freedom, there's fewer restraints. What do you think's driving that trend? I mean, it may not altogether be a good thing. Anything can be abused, but then you can eat too much ice cream and abuse yourself. So, I don't know. I guess I have more questions than answers. What do you think's driving it?
Well, honestly, I haven't finished this article yet, and I may change my or think differently after I do and I see a little bit more of their research. But just my gut reaction is, um, people, especially in that age range, like 30 years old and older, are realizing right now, perhaps, or are on some sort of spectrum of moving away from the paradigm of managing stress or partying or getting a head change, that they were sort of brought up with, and looking for something a little bit more traditional, a little bit more earth based, a little bit more planet and plant based, because people have gone so crazy with uh just the mindset and the alcohol and the pharmaceuticals, man. And like the culture celebrates it. The culture completely celebrates the whole concept of having a wide spectrum of mental health problems that require a wide spectrum of pharmaceutical solutions. And then at the same time as all the entertainment promoting not only that, but alcohol consumption on top of that, which is ironic, right? Because most of the inserts on a lot of these things that people are taking say don't do this with alcohol. But you know, you go watch any show on Netflix or streaming services or movies, and you'll see people in fake professional environments talking about what kind of pharmaceuticals they take while they're drinking cocktails and using it as an excuse to behave degenerately, you know, and that's like supposed to be cool, right?
Can I jump in right here?
Yeah, jump in, dude.
Yeah. All right. All right. Just one person's observation. I think that the spike of this is probably multifold, and a couple of the reasons are what you're saying, Hesh, and to like keep going that direction. I think a lot of our recent distrust in the government and a lot of people being broken spiritually, mentally, psychologically, and in every sort of way, at an increasing rate over the last, say, quarter century. Let's even say since 9/11, just use it as a benchmark or something like that. It's making people that COVID, the great financial crisis and all these different things that are happening at a faster rate. The time off with COVID for people to like deep dive into their own head and everything else like that, because no one was at work, et cetera, et cetera. I think that is making people in a sober state go, what the F? They, air quotes, have been BSing us to one degree or another. Right. I'm not talking about us. I'm talking about, just regular, not that we're not regular everyday people, but like just the masses have been like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on? Have they been lying to us? Our control mechanisms since forever, the management class and above. And one of the things they preached hard, that same mechanism, was don't do it. Don't do it. If you do it, this is going to happen. If you do it, that's going to happen. And then maybe people that have nothing happened to them, they were cool. Maybe people that after taking this stuff, not talking like coke or meth or whatever, but like, and they're like, yeah, there's another time that they're lying for us. And so you get broken people that kind of don't care anymore. And they're like, yeah, you know what? I'll do anything right now because everything's just crazy. So why not? And then they're like, hey, you know what? This isn't that big of a deal, actually. I think that the stuff too that's coming out with its positive effects, somewhat popularized from Graham Hancock or Joe Rogan or whatever. And then they always stress, it's got to be managed. Maybe a person's got to have themselves together before they do some of this stuff or whatever. Otherwise, it could possibly backfire or whatever. Those buyer beware sort of stuff. But like the hands off, don't do it, or you're gonna freaking chew your own face off, right? So just these wild things like that. Was just another control mechanism.
And reefer madness. You're talking about like the reefer madness. Speaking of like hardcore propaganda, the reefer madness era, right?
Yeah. So, and Lord forbid too that like for people that are sort of together and it just sort of like unclogs, or it's that doing some of this stuff might defrag the hard drive between the ears a little bit. It might even put people onto things a little bit more of what's really going on and get people asking questions of what's really going on. Maybe that's another underlying reason of why they don't touch that. It's don't touch that, kid. It's bad for you. You don't need to know what the real world is like, outside of mommy and daddy mechanism controlling you. So I think all of these things are like just sort of like morphing and coming to play all at once, hence the spike.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like I can feel sort of like the dialectical sort of Damocles, or the dialectical pit in the pendulum there, where it's like, like so many things we could put in the same example, but over a matter of years, they see something where a black market arises, or they create a black market that arises, or manage a black market that's arising, and then they do prohibition on it, right? And we get the full on drug war, an unwinnable drug war, much like a war on terrorism, a war on a concept, a thing, not a people, that ends up being a war of policies, violent policies and such. And then just ride that out for decades until it's time it's time to just say, you know what? It's fine. We're going to actually we're going to take the taxpayers' dollars and we're going to give you crack pipes. We're going to give you intravenous injection capabilities and rubber bands for your arms and all these things that we used to arrest you for. We're going to give you those, and you can do them in the bathrooms at these publicly funded, state-funded, government-funded facilities in all the major cities of the United States. You know what I mean? It's like they completely invert it to the point where there's, of all the middle grounds that you would find between those two inversions that might bring some sort of peace and substance, we're not given that opportunity. We just have to go from one extreme to the other, and it's just a dialectic, and you're rotting on both sides of it.
Yeah, and it's all mechanisms of control, right? I don't know, like puppet master stuff. Again, market, like I think the big one, money, how you get by day to day, and how institutions and everything, it's just all built on that concept. And intent wise, it's to control and manipulate, and that's like mechanism number one. And I think maybe 1A or in the top list is education or lack of, and or making people just dumb via all sorts of propaganda. People can't have dialogue without just flying off the handle anymore. And it was mentioned earlier tonight, we do nuance around here. People don't do nuance though in the greater public, at least not, just walking by people in the shopping aisle or nothing like that, or and everything else like that. Everything's just so like blitzkrieg fast, quick ID politics. Even if you see someone wearing a hat, a shirt, what they look like, and everything else like that. And that's down to subjects like drugs. There's nuance all over that subject. Is it a heavy thing? Is it damaging? Or are you using a little? Are you using it a lot? Legal, not legal, old propaganda, new studies and findings. A lot of people don't even do nuance with that subject. They just immediately bring their feelings in and just start going off the rails one way or the other, or getting really passionate. And that's cool. But are you flying off the handle without thinking about what's being said? Or are you even speaking in a manner where you're like putting nuance out there and talking intelligently about that, which I might not be doing that at all. But, it's like all of that's gone. And to me, or to a large degree, and to me, it shows how scarily effective people have made to be like trigger reacting, manipulated idiots. I don't know how else to put it.
Well, yeah, I mean that makes sense. Here's a comment from Jason in the YouTube chat. Legalization of cannabis has really blown doors open for mushrooms, and yeah, I think that lays right into what Randy was saying there. And it's like, They told you that this was your brain on on cannabis, on any drugs when you were like what, 12? I don't know. I guess I was probably like 12 when I saw that ad campaign. And it was frying eggs, you know, and then, like, they, you know, maybe that's one of the reasons I'm so interested in propaganda busting, because I'll never forget that campaign, like the Nancy Reagan years, the Dare years, all that stuff, and you know, like all the musicians I liked having to go do, like, you know, Dare music videos after they'd get caught drunk driving. It just felt weird, you know. And then they tell us, oh, you're going to be retarded, or you're going to, you know, turn into a vegetable if you smoke a joint. And then we smoked a joint and listened to those musicians that had to do those commercials, and it's like, wait a minute, no, this is awesome. What are you talking about? So and a lot of people just aren't willing to, you know, do that until it becomes legal. And now there's all these people just must be like, oh wow, you mean I can just, I remember when I was going to go to jail for driving around with a joint, and now I'm encouraged to smoke a joint in public with all my
Now you get pulled
coworkers
over
and
and
friends, right?
I don't
now
think
you
you
get
should be
pulled over and the
driving.
cop.
That
Now
is
you get pulled over in California and the cop sees you and he's like, "Oh, hey, you need a light for that?" You know what I mean? It's like how times have changed.
Yeah. All right. Well, to be fair, they don't want you driving and doing it, but let's face it, everybody
Right, right.
is, and they certainly don't have time anymore to pull everybody over for it, and certainly can't drag them to jail for it because they're just
Well, with the drones, Hesher, I think there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. I don't know. I might want to take the advice that Rex Cars was giving about the fact that some of this stuff is an inversion, a reverse psychology trick. So I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I'm like, if mainstream society and governments and the politicians who I don't already trust are telling me, hey, Adam, go out and do mushrooms, I think I'm going to avoid them. In fact, I actually already have a personal reason to avoid them. I have avoided them since the last time I had a really nasty trip. Speaking of driving, definitely don't drive when you're on shrooms, kids. And I shudder to think of a full blown society where everyone is running around on hallucinogens. I mean, like, we're encouraging the society en masse to be tripping balls. I don't know. I'm really. No, I'm not on the fence with this one. I think I'm against this one because we just fought to get fluoride out of the water. What are they going to do? Convince us all that, like, oh, well, we're just going to add we're going to microdose everybody's water every day, and then until eventually, like months down the road, it's like it's alien invasion time, and everybody's like, yo, aliens. You know, I'm just saying. I don't trust it. Also, there's the pharmaceutical industry who's probably just going to, you know, invent some sort of synthetic form of it and make a killing. So who better to serve than those folks who already enjoy doing it and are a existing customer base for when they roll that out? Just saying.
Well, luckily, these are some of the easiest things to grow on your own at home that you could even possibly imagine. It is so super easy.
It's not like it just grows on cow shit or something in the woods, Hesher.
Oh, yeah. Well, it is kind of like that sometimes. But even when you
really?
make it at home, it's not that hard to set up. Trust me, I know.
You know, he
So
makes
you're not.
a good point. It could be market prep. In other words, you get people to enjoy and, you know, partake in a particular recreational drug as a way to prep them for a pharmaceutical version later. There's quite a bit of merit to that, I think. Reverting back to Meet Reefer Madness and the early no about marijuana, and we can all wonder about why that inverted itself. But I think even though marijuana, I think, can be a little bit psychologically harmful if you overdo it, I think it's relatively harmless, and properly used, maybe getting the right kinds, can even be maybe a health benefit. That being said, I think that one of the things that they fear about an independent drug culture that isn't being prepped for some sort of pharma takeover is that people won't fight wars anymore. One of the linchpins of the establishment is they've got to know And think about the report from Iron Mountain that was put out, and people said it was a hoax. But John Kenneth Galbraith, the late economist, claimed to have been there in the 1960s. The Rand Corporation was involved. A little bit of a Dr. Strangelove kind of scenario. But the report from Iron Mountain concluded that the war system, their words, the war system must be maintained. So they were deliberately maintaining a war system. Now, that could mean that some wars are contrived, faked, fought for reasons that we're not told, et cetera, et cetera. But regardless of that, they have to have that sort of jingoistic patriotism sustained. The idea that the military is the main object of our veneration. And the country lacks, our country lacks a constitutional compass. We don't have really any religious cohesion of any meaningful degree. There's not a lot that keeps the center in place in this country. The nucleus, the center is kind of lost. Our compass doesn't point north anymore. So all we have left is to get people excited and servile toward the idea of having a large military. To have that, you have to have a war system to keep people willing to fight and put on a uniform for the war system. It takes a certain mentality. And I think some of the drug culture turns people away from that mentality. They're not going to join the army anymore. And they're even going to have maybe more insights as to what's wrong with society. They'll become more contemplative. Maybe they'll lead a less busy life where they're constantly diverted, constantly interrupted. In other words, their attention span is cut short by the duties of daily life, the hurry of daily life, the hustle and bustle. That's the word I'm after. So, the drug thing tends to kind of smooth that out, and then you think a little more, and you begin to kind of realize what the system's about. And they can't have that. The final thing in the report from Iron Mountain is the war system must be maintained. And
I gotta jump in just to say, I'm in the church in the seats, and you're preaching, and that I think you nailed it. That ding 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 ding. The winner is Rex Cars. Yeah, that has to come into play if you ask this guy. 100%.
What I would do is listeners and us panelists here, buy it or find it online. Get the report from Iron Mountain, and I forget the subtitle of it. Forgive me, I'm going to talk to my phone. Shoot. The report from Iron Mountain.
Yeah.
They call it an anti-war satire. It was not a satire. Okay. They treat it like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. They say it's just a satire. It is not. You can be absolutely assured of that. The report from Iron Mountain on the possibility and desirability of peace, but they're using peace in the Orwellian sense of that. If you actually read it, they look at what else can motivate people to be galvanized toward a common goal. What else can galvanize the mass mind? And they actually consider in this book environmental decline, pathogens, epidemics and pandemics of diseases. All these things are considered as to how do you keep people servile under a certain system. But they actually come to more or less conclude that invoking a foreign enemy, invoking enemies, and having a war system pushes most of the buttons they want pushed and fires on most of the cylinders they want to fire. That's what they end up saying, even though they consider all these other contrived threats, and they basically admit the threats don't have to be totally real. But they go through these scenarios, and without rehashing what I'm saying too much, they conclude that they've got to keep the war system in place. So therefore, a certain degree of mind expanding drugs can be a threat to that.
Well, my friends, that is why I support the psychonauts and psilocybin chasers here, because they got everybody else. I don't see that they're pushing this on anybody. It seems more like the study is looking at how many people have ended up in the hospital. I don't know if any of you guys have ever had to talk anybody out of dialing 911 when they were having a crazy mushroom trip. I have. It can be challenging. Sometimes the
I
number.
think I did to myself after crawling out of the mirror when I looked at myself. Or
Yeah,
something.
see, something like that will cause someone to call one of these numbers. So here it goes on to say, while the study found little evidence that psilocybin users were flooding emergency rooms, it did reveal a sharp rise in calls to poison control centers. Between 2019 and 2023, such calls increased by 201% for adults, 317% for adolescents, and 723% for children aged 11 and younger. Okay, now we're getting into dangerous territory. That's a whole nother discussion. In 2023 alone, U.S. poison centers received over 1,100 calls related to adult psilocybin exposures, over 500 involving adolescents, and nearly 300 involving children. Notably, the vast majority of these cases led to some form of healthcare contact. So this is a pretty rough study right here, because they're just going by these small numbers of people who have called the poison control center, people who had a bad trip and called a number, basically, which is pretty poor representation. But again, very interesting. There's a lot of factors. To get back to your question, Rex Cars, why do we think this is? Because people realize they've been lied to, number one, generationally, and that the war on drugs was a scam. Because it's cool now to try everything. It's cool to it's the transhumanist way to try to manage every single little emotional and mental thing with some sort of substance. And frankly, people aren't going to go to war that are doing psilocybin, but people that are doing methamphetamine and opium will. And that's most of the people. They're bringing up all the children on Ritalin and Adderall. Adults are doing Adderall. And then Xanax to come down from it? That's a perfect soldier right there. And that's one that Big Pharma benefits from. But your mushroom taker and your pot smoker, they're probably not going to be going down and signing up to go fight the war.
Agreed.
Do you want to hear a little bit of what the report from Iron Mountain says verbatim?
Yeah, hit me up. What page of the PDF you want me to go to it? I can light it up.
No, I've just got a Wikipedia passages that come right from the book.
Go for it.
It's interesting. The main part of the book examines the non-military, economic, political, sociological, cultural, and scientific functions of war and the problems these raise for the transition to peace, quote unquote. These include war's role in regulating the economy's inevitable boom and bust cycles. So the economy being tied to boom and bust being necessary is a critical linchpin. Defining any given nation's existence vis-a-vis any other nation, rationalizing non-military killing by habituating people to pay a blood price for institutions, such as the sacrifice of 40,000 people per year to automobile accidents. So, in other words, they kind of look at the idea that we can get people to tolerate a certain amount of death for the luxuries they have. And so, so people will always see the trade-off. Well, I'm going to participate in society. A certain number of people are going to get killed doing what I do, driving a car, but I'm going to do it anyway. And so they get people to take what are called calculated risks. Anyway, the report then suggests some substitutes for the non-military functions of war, including medical research, healthcare for all, improved education, housing, public transportation, poverty reduction, and so forth. But ultimately, the report notes that these do not answer the need for an external threat to maintain social stability. So in other words, society can have all these flaws, but ultimately they need to have Red China, or they need to have some huge external threat that will galvanize people and create a military establishment that will maintain a huge navy, a huge army, a huge air force. A lot of those planes never see combat. They end up rotting in fields. The money is spent and appropriated. Congress, what does Congress do anymore? They basically stamp the defense budget, the biggest defense budget in the history of mankind. They pay the bankers their interest. They go home. They come to Congress the next day, and they further have committee meetings so they can stamp the next huge defense budget and pay the bankers their next block of interest. I mean, this is Congress, okay? There's not a whole lot more to it than that, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like you look at the amount of like the network of existential threats that have been set up around all of the Western countries, and the whole narrative around the good guys, the bad guys, and those in between, locked in the struggle, of NATO and the rest of the world. And it's just like, okay, great. So we've just got this going on at like a grand scale, basically the Brzezinski geopolitical chessboard, if you will. And now that's all basically been applied nationally here in America and across westernized countries. Basically the whole schism, multifaceted schisms that we're faced with over power politics and culture war and financial warfare stuff. I don't know, man. It's quite the situation we find ourselves in.
I found myself butting in more than usual. I do have a little bit of a time hack, but I want to also do so thematically, because I think what I wanted to get at is just going to like it's perfect transition or whatever and all that. So not too abrupt of a change, but like a little bit of a gear shift, if I dare be so bold.
Yeah.
Epstein, man. So, I mean, what's it? F. Jepstein? That guy. Anyway, the whole thing with I'm just going to call it that, and all the things with it.
Dude,
right?
you can name and shame this one all you want. Like somehow we find ourselves in halfway through May of 2025 in a world where
we could talk again,
where everybody on YouTube and all the platforms are talking about Jeffrey Epstein and all these other things, Israel, Palestine, Kanye, all this crazy stuff going on, man. Like the Overton window is now somewhere completely new and strange. So don't sweat it too much, man. We can talk about Jeffrey Epstein, who didn't kill himself, hashtag all we want.
Okay, it's funny for anybody that's newer listening. We were, as a group, we're so far ahead of the curve. We still got to get rid of old habits as far as like self-protection mechanisms when you talk and everything else like that. But for that cocksucker Jeffrey fucking Epstein. No, okay. So anyways, that guy and everything around him, I got to thinking, right, we got this newer administration, or Trump 2.0 in and everything else like that. And this thing's been out here for a while. It traces back to Florida. I started going over all these different things. And I'm like, well, why don't they just come out with the info, or what's taking so long? And they're vetting all these victims, and Pam Bondi's out there doing her, defend draw it out, delay stuff and all that. And Cash Patel's going to go in and throw chairs and flip tables and, okay. Everybody pump the brakes. I'm starting to I was really starting to think about this, and I'm going to use air quotes again. Everything in air quotes that we talk about. And I'm starting to think, and maybe I thought this all along, but maybe my eyes are opening to the scale, the scale of this. Stuff we talked about tonight, controlling the narrative, money, institutions, why is there control? People need to be controlled. People need to be done. Like, I mean, literally pick a subject that we talked about tonight and on many nights. And I'm thinking there's levels to what's probably going to be exposed or what they want to expose. Because if they really just peeled back wars, right? Wars, the whole concept with the Iron Mountain. I mean, to me, that reads more like what Rex Cars reads more like a blueprint or a ideology or a statement of intent or better practices or something like that, more than it does satire. So that's funny they even try to call it that. But all of that, right? The origins of World War II, the Bush family funding one side and then like the quote unquote wrong side and all these other things, bakings, and all of this. I think it's all related. It's always been there. It traces its roots back to that, possibly further, but I don't want to get too far off the rails here. And I think what's going on is the blackmail and the intel stuff that's all intertwined with Epstein, allegedly, supposedly, theoretically, whatever. I think if you get past their personal weird proclivities and everything else like that, or their off the chart parties and their ruining of people to fill their insatiable desires or whatever, I think once you get past that, and that's an embarrassment thing, and all that, and they don't want to go through that. But if you go just one step past that, you start going, okay, wait a minute. Oh, it's to protect this industry. Oh, it's to protect that family and what they've been doing. Oh, it's to protect this world leader over here, this religious figure. I mean, maybe the Pope's involved. I mean, it could be so, all of these things could literally be working together, and you just start connecting the dots a little bit too much. And what if, dare I say, a bunch of these conspiracy theories, air quotes again, not only are they true, they're all like intertwined. And so then everything comes crashing down. So even a Trump, a Bondi, a Cash Patel, if they're trying to right the ship in one way, maybe they're also trying to what level and to what degree, maybe they're just order followers, or maybe they're trying to, I hear this phrase a lot, keep everything from falling apart and at least extend the enterprise into the future, another decade or two or whatever.
National security risk. That's when they bring out that term. It's a national security risk if we don't redact it.
Yeah, to keep the party going, I guess, that started, in 1776 for a lot of people and a lot of everyday regular people. When you start talking about how lives are lived and leisure and all that, that people enjoy, whether they realize it or not, compared to other civilizations historically that we know of, for recorded history. So you got a good thing going in a certain way, and why disrupt all of that? But it could all come, ironically, or pun intended, House of Cards, on a global level, could come crashing down when it's like, oh, China was in on that, the other side of World War II, oh, it really wasn't a conspiracy. Like, if it's all just out there and like actually reported on, and it just the lights are shine in all the dark corners, and we see what's really going on. It could really F a lot of stuff up because a lot of people have died, a lot of families ruined under each little category that we talk about tonight. Vehicles, drugs, pharmaceuticals, wars, everything. And so there'd be a lot of piss off people. You got to wonder too, are we domesticated and everything enough now that we'd be like, on one hand, oh yeah, well, we figured all that. So instead of slow drip, we figured all that, but keep the logistics, supply chain coming and everything else up and everything else like that. Maybe it's a slow drip to reality. What really happened? Like, say, just take one small thing as an example. JFK, right? Everybody knows that it's not, the Warren Commission's thing that like dude was taken out some other way, probably to some one degree or another, an inside job, right? Well, everybody knows that now, but nobody's up in arms about it because time passed. It was like a slow drip of info release over time. So when you started, this thing has to like control the narrative. If they slow drip the information out and let people warm up to it and realize they're swimming in sewer water, not a swimming pool, maybe they'll just take it and like it as long as their internet's working and the shelves are stocked. And, one day goes to the next.
That's where the ultimate black pilling kicks in, dude. We had an interesting conversation in our Discord about that earlier today. Randy, let me shift over to Rex Cars for a moment here before we introduce or welcome Basilite Analyzer, because I know Rex doesn't have a whole lot longer here. Rex, are you still with us? And do you want to respond to anything that Randy J just said, or do you got to bug out, or are you even still there? Rex Cars, check in with us if you're there. Going once, going twice. All right, Rex Cars.
Having some equipment issues.
There he is.
His neighborhood's behind me. I hope he's all right.
Yeah.
This webcam is a little temperamental. I don't understand exactly. Okay. Come on, what are you doing?
Rex Cars got a new webcam tonight, and this is its maiden voyage.
Yeah, I'm saying.
You probably have to make some sort of hand signal at it. There you go.
Yeah. It's almost an antagonistic relationship already. It's just fresh out of the box.
A camera with artificial intelligence. Of course it's going to be antagonistic.
Yeah. I heard most of what Randy had to say. I had this on rather loud. I had to do some things in the kitchen there. Something got left on the stove, among other things. But yeah, this has been a very fruitful discussion. I mean, if you look for ultimate causes and whatnot, and ultimate goals, a lot of times that can tell you a great deal. The details, again, can be very hard to discern because we don't, we're told we live in an open society, and we actually don't live in an open society. It's open in a sense that is still safe for the powers that be. But the media cartel they created, which was already pretty powerful with the advent of radio, and of course the development of television is a little bit shrouded in mystery as to ultimately why they created television and what it was about. But I think we're beginning to see what it was about, and that is mass conditioning. I remember seeing a movie that was about the era when TV first came aboard, and these guys were talking, and they were going, you realize that we can get everybody to hear the same thing at the same time by the tens and hundreds of thousands of people? They kind of realized what it was about. We can send one message and most everybody will hear it at the same time. And we can repeat that message until everybody more or less has heard it. Mass conditioning. And so then, you can basically get people tuned into a warfare state. Well, we can sing patriotic songs We can listen to John Philip Sousa play Stars and Stripes Forever. A great march, a great musician, no doubt. But, you know, to either have a nation state or have a fake one, you've got to have a military and an enemy, or at least a potential enemy. And then you've got to be able to galvanize people and convince them to do things they wouldn't normally do. You wouldn't normally fly to Vietnam and kill people, would you?
No.
You've got to be told there's some manifest thing going on, that the North Vietnamese are going to take over the South, and you need to identify with the freedom of the South. Never mind that the South Vietnam's leader, what was his name, Diem or whatever, just kind of was mysteriously or not so mysteriously assassinated. And oops, the North won anyway. The North Vietnamese absolutely conquered the South. And now we have items made in Vietnam, clothes and electronics. Was that the goal all along? You see? Well, let's have a war there, and let's act like 53,000 is a lot of dead people. Well, it is. But what they don't talk about is disease and non-battle injury, DNBI. More people die of disease and non-battle injury than they do of being shot dead or blown up by a hand grenade. The 53,000 that died in Vietnam are direct KIAs, killed in action. Way more soldiers died than 53,000. That doesn't count the ones that died 2 years later from battle-related illnesses.
Throw that up there again, there, Based.
It's McLuhan, Understanding Media. Sorry, it's backwards.
Right. He also wrote the media is the medium is the message, or whatever that was called. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a guy, I hope he's still alive, and this will be my final comment, named Doug Rocky. And he turned me on to something called GWIVIS, the Gulf War Veterans Information System. And he showed me some numbers years ago. He was a bombardier in Vietnam. He said that when a B-52 unloaded its load, that everyone within 1 mile of where those bombs dropped was deaf, and probably permanently. That's how powerful it was, the onslaught. If you were within a mile, you were going to lose your hearing. But anyway, he talked about this Gulf War Veterans Information System and how the actual dead from killed in action plus disease and non-battle injury, the numbers are way more than what we've been told for World War II, World War I, Vietnam. See, so they want to give you KIAs, but they don't want to give you the whole number, because if they did, nobody'd fight the damn wars anymore.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no kidding.
And I forget what the numbers were for Gulf War. What was it? Desert Storm, Desert Shield. I can't remember the numbers, but the real numbers were huge, way more than the official numbers.
Yeah, and they continue to increase daily too, because of all the suicides that happen. You know, they estimate it's more than 23 a day that happen out of, you know, that segment of our veterans. So no, it's insane, man. It's absolutely insane. And it's insane to me also that, you know, those numbers may have been, you could multiply those numbers by 100 or more and equal the amount of people that many say. I got to be careful with how I say this, so the manual reviewer there at YouTube understands that I'm simply looking at publicly sourced information, and many in the numbers industry and the medical industry say that there have been well over 500,000 people that have lost their lives or been maimed by medical accidents, medical procedures, new things introduced into the medical marketplace. How is that not a war? How are those numbers not something that we look at? You know, it's just absurd. 500,000, a million, and we're just not allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to ask.
Right. There'll be no war memorial with their names on the walls for that one.
No.
It can only be military, because then you can get out the trumpets and the bugles and the drums and say, Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah, hurrah. See, It's got to have some emotional thing. If it doesn't have that military thing, it doesn't have the emotional hook.
Yep.
And as the report from Iron Mountain concluded, the only way to keep people focused on a false goal and have what seems like a nation state is to have a military, therefore have a threat, therefore have a war system, therefore don't allow things that mitigate against that war system, and then get people to believe that somehow those deaths are more significant than other deaths. And this is nothing against veterans, but if you fight for the wrong reasons, if you go to war under the wrong pretenses, there's nothing heroic about it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's like it's got to kind of sting on a week like this where you've got photographs of Donald Trump going and shaking hands and recognizing a former Al Qaeda and former ISIS head chopper commander as the president of Syria. Like, what the hell is that? It wasn't all that long ago you were telling us you defeated ISIS. Now you're shaking hands with someone who's been affiliated with those very same agencies. Like, I mean, what are we to think of that? How are we to parse that as, people who live through all that, people who have friends or family who have, who are veterans of places like Iraq and Afghanistan, watching Donald Trump go and recognize this Jolani character. I mean, I don't know. That must cause some dissonance for a lot of people.
All I'll say before I got to go is that Al Qaeda is probably largely just an intelligence creation. That person you're referring to might have a completely different identity. You really don't know who these people are. Was he really involved in those things, or is he just some front man with that name on it? Kind of like a Jew in a turban, right?
Yeah, well, he's clearly a friend of Israel, and clearly Hamas, ISIS, and Al Qaeda, and Al Nusra, and we could go on and on and on, all the way back to the Iran Contras, and just keep going and going and going. All these operations where they'll take they being our CIA and or other state intelligence, multinational intelligence, even corporate intelligence agencies working at the behest of the governments will go in and radicalize and arm and train people like this. And they like to predate on people that are extremists and violent, and they foster that.
Right.
And boom, there you go. You've got your Hamases, you've got your ISISes, you've got the organic faction of it that you can use as disposable meat for the meat grinder, and then you've got your intelligence steeped aspect of it that you can then march into Syria and claim that they're the good guy that is now the president of Syria. I mean, this shit just goes on and on.
Yeah, absolutely. The all the world's a stage.
Yeah. All right, Mark, I know you got to get going, so
Yeah.
I'll hand it to you one more time. Tell people where to find you, what you're up to, and we'll look forward to having you back on again real soon.
Well, that's very nice, you Hesh. Yeah, UK Column every Friday, ukcolumn.org. It's 7 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Eastern in the States. It's 1 p.m. in the UK, but they archive automatically if you don't watch it in real time. And there's a news extra where we loosen up and get into more in-depth things. Right now, I'm on there usually with Mike Robinson and Patrick Henningsen. You work with him on Sundays, I believe, Hesh. And we're going to be covering South Africa tomorrow, and Trump wanting to maybe nix FEMA and some other texts. There's an important announcement I think it's worth getting out. I just remembered James Roguski discovered that there's an annex in the pandemic treaty whereby the countries, according to their own rules in the process, cannot actually officially sign and finalize the pandemic treaty for up to 1 year. So it buys more time for opponents to marshal their opposition to the pandemic treaty. And so by their own machinations, there's an annex that they can't evidently bypass that is going to slow down the process. They're going to act like it's a done deal, but it's not.
All right, excellent. I haven't been keeping up with James's site lately, his Substack. How do you know anything about how Trump allegedly, disassociating us, the U.S., from the WHO and all that? Does that business change the way the United States in particular might respond to the pandemic treaty? I haven't had an update on this in a while.
Well, one of the things that I covered the previous week on UK Column was there's a World Council for Health, a good organization that Roguski, among others, participates in. And there's these collaborating centers within countries that work directly with the WHO. So while a country might be, let's say, not a member of the WHO, Trump pulled out apparently in January of this year, but it won't be official. According to WHO rules, when they first founded the WHO in 48, they said if you duck out, it's going to take 1 year for that country that's leaving to be officially gone. So we won't be out of the WHO officially till January of 2026. But in the meantime, there's these collaborative centers. So if a country is cooperating with the WHO or not, universities and medical research facilities and even individual government agencies have direct collaboration with the WHO. And so these collaborative centers are more or less on autopilot, having private or quasi-public contact with the WHO and its affiliates. So there's a lot of Lilliputian threads that attach a country to the WHO. It's not just the government being a member. There's all these private sector and hospitals and universities that also work with the WHO, which is probably on purpose so the WHO can sort of trap a country in sort of a web, if you will. But nevertheless, Roguski and your listeners live and on your archive can take note of this, is saying there's this annex, and you can look him up on Substack, James Roguski, Roguski. He's done some great work. He also has a repeal. Oh, what's that called? Gosh darn it. The PrEP Act. Repeal the PrEP Act. There's a petition on his Substack column. The PrEP Act, of course, is the law that largely shields Big Pharma from lawsuits. So he also has the campaign to repeal the PrEP Act. And another footnote I'll mention is that Pfizer's in court again. Pfizer is almost never not in court anymore. The good news is the state of Kansas is suing Pfizer, and there's a lot more revelations going on, at least by conservative states, that Pfizer is a perilous path to follow. And the timing of it is excellent for Kansas to sue Pfizer right as this pandemic treaty is the final negotiations, and the final deliberations are March 19 through May 19 through May 27. So it's coming up May 19. They're going to start in Geneva, the World Health Assembly. I think it's the 78th one. They'll go until the 27th. They'll say this thing's a done deal, but according to the annex and the extended time that they have to take to get it signed, it will not be a done deal. Yeah, there it is.
All right, great. So there's the source there. News release: Kansas Attorney General wins first battle in lawsuit against Pfizer over the COVID vaccine.
Yes, not another drug, not a prescription drug, over the vaccine. So this raises the visibility that these the efficacy, the safety, and so on. They're talking about pregnant women and myocarditis and pericarditis. And I know I'm going on a bit, but there are cross-country runners, young ones, high school age, in Tennessee near Nashville that died. And I'm telling you, they just dropped dead running their cross-country events. And
one of my students, he was 15 years old, athlete.
Oh, really?
Yes.
What's the name?
I'm not going to say his name on here, but he was a football player and it was national news, and he was at practice, and that was it.
State of Tennessee or a different state?
Virginia.
yeah, if this gets out, if they can connect that to the vaccines, and there's a study out too that there's no such thing as a little bit of heart damage like myocarditis from the mRNA injections. In other words, it can look like it's minor, and the media can say minor myocarditis or whatever, but in fact, once that damage is done, even a little bit, and I don't understand it as well as I should. In other words, the heart tissue doesn't repair itself like the liver does. So once that's damaged, even a little bit is a lot, is what I'm trying to say. It's like trying to say someone's a little bit pregnant.
Yeah, and you can't repair it. Like it whatever amount of damage is done in the event is permanent, and any further damage done is on top of what they already have. That's something we learned fortunately I didn't even have to know what the word myocarditis meant until 2020 or early 2021.
It's not like those brain worms, like, RFK had the brain worms. He's okay. This is completely different.
But the final thing I'll
my
mention
brain
is
removed.
that a young person with that damage from mRNA can just drop dead, even though they're really healthy. So these young athletes in Tennessee and Virginia, if this gets out, and then you got Kansas suing them over this stuff, maybe we'd live to see Albert Bourla making big rocks into small rocks and peeling potatoes for the next million years.
Oh, one can hope. One can hope. I don't know. Those are big dreams there, Mark. I think I might have lost Randy J. I'm gonna have to look into that. Okay, Mark, anything else before you jump out of here?
No, that's the big stuff, man.
All right, and you can be found on ukcolumn.org tomorrow and every Friday.
Yeah, have a good one, guys. Good stuff.
All right.
See
There
you, Mark.
goes Rex Cars right there. Baselit Analyzer, welcome to the Boiler Room, dude. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see y'all. What's up? I like hearing Mark quote multiple literary sources: Jonathan Swift, Shakespeare, right? All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. Yeah, a lot's been going on. He was talking about war memorials, and I was just at the Virginia War Memorial last night.
Oh, wow.
And Persian Gulf, there were 4 names. World War II, there were, lots and lots of names, including I found my great uncle's name on there, and my grandmother's first husband, who both died in the war, ambushed by Nazis. But that was pretty intense. But yeah, all these
are like MAGA followers.
Like Kanye fans, you mean?
Yeah, Kanye album buyers, I guess.
Kanye enjoyers, just your typical Kanye enjoyers.
Yeah, because speaking of which, right? Can I bring that topic up?
Dude, yes, please.
Yeah. I mean,
we're on YouTube if that matters.
Yeah. This whole Ye, I'm gonna call him Ye. That's what he wants to be called. This whole Ye thing has been it's like so mind blowing to me. It's kind of hard to get a handle on it, and it's like the fact that we live in a world where this exists, right? Where the huge mega global, rap pop star, like celebrity figure this is his thing now, it's crazy to me. This is like when we covered Don DeLeo and White Noise and stuff, and like this is like everything postmodernism is. It's like the reality folding on itself that this has happened. And everyone that I've talked to about this particular song, the HH song, the first thing that they say is, listen, I don't know about the song, but I can't lie. I mean, like the music is like, it's bumping. That's what everyone I've talked to has said. And the video, you guys have seen the video, right? The music video.
I have not actually seen it yet.
For the Hail Hotler.
Okay, all right,
because that's the title of the song. It's wild. It's like I was talking to a friend earlier, and they were like, look, all those bands like Screwdriver and those bands affiliated with Neo and things back in the day. It's like, yeah, well, the music wasn't great, and this is like a well-produced song that sounds kind of like like in Lenny Riefenstahl when they're walking into Nuremberg rally. It's like a 21st century version of this song. It's crazy. It is a wild song, and I don't know. What do you guys make of this whole thing? I mean, it's like, yeah, is he schizo? Is he waking up? Is he crazy? Is he? His explanation was, they said, "Why'd you do this?" And he said, "Well, you don't understand. I'm evil."
Dude, there are so many answers to this question. Like I could like, do I pick my out of my top 5 my favorite answers for this question? And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't think we can rightly answer the question, what do we make of this? Like, just knowing what we know about Hollywood and the entertainment industry and what happens to people that achieve mega stardom. I mean, look at Britney Spears right now. Like, ask me what's going on with Britney Spears. I can't freaking tell you, man, other than
Justin
something.
Bieber as well.
Justin Bieber, Britney Spears, Randy Quaid. I mean, and then the ones that are not allowed to be here anymore, all the people that have been under the, many people's question about Star Whacker, stuff like that. And, there's so much mainstreaming of information going around right now that we used to have to really aardvark to find, back in the day. Like, I remember I don't remember who brought it up, but we talked about the leaked text message or phone message from Kanye's, or from Kanye at the time, Ye's trainer, quote unquote trainer, who basically threatened to abduct him and send him back to, like, a mind control center, basically, and ruin his life and make him crazy.
That was Jamie. She's the expert on that.
Yeah, Jamie's talked about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And Candace Owens has been bringing that up lately and tying in, like, Michael Jackson, Justin Bieber. Like, she's been doing, like, just massive deep dives on these things, collecting a bunch of information that we've seen before and putting it all together.
Prince is another one.
Yeah, totally. Prince. And the amount of connections that, can be found between all these artists and similarities is pretty staggering. So I don't know what the fuck Kanye is doing. I don't know what Ye is up to, man, to be quite honest. I mean, maybe it's just completely organic, and he has this is what I hope it is that this is really him, and this is his way of dealing with, having been essentially assaulted and canceled and deplatformed and debanked, and this is the ultimate rebellion. That's my favorite answer. My least favorite answer is he's under some kind of mind control and part of this whole
either that, or he was, and now it's he's breaking out of it, like Britney Spears shaving her head and going crazy in the street. They're like, no, she's not going to sleep, she's waking up, right?
Yeah, there you go. You just said the word. There it is. I think this is my least favorable answer. I'm just being honest and going with the flow and how I feel right now in the moment. But did we get Ye wrong? Was this entire time Kanye is exactly what he says he is, and he's like a true visionary, like musical genius who's tapped into something before it was something? Because side note, you said something about Candace, right? Funny thing is, lately Candace looks a lot like Ian Carroll. I don't know what happened, but she's gone off her YouTube, and it's Ian Carroll now hosting her show or doing his own show on her.
She's on maternity leave.
Okay, so that explains that. But it's the same kind of phenomenon with that dude who was just on Roseanne Barr's podcast. We see this narrative, this waking up to a particular flavor of a reality. I'm not going to say it because we're on YouTube, but it's sideways associated with what Ye's been on about. Now Ye's just been doing it a lot more wacky, but I think the whole world is freaking wacky, and he's tapped into something. He creates these crazy shoes and these clothes that you and I look at and we're like, what the F is this shit? But like, he sells out of it. like in a heartbeat. So he knows something. He knows his customer better than we can even fathom. You know what I mean? So I really think he's tapped into something before. I think he front runned this shifting narrative concerning some geopolitical issues of our recent history. That's what I suspect.
He did have that song. He had a song called Black Skinhead on his Yeezus album. And he's mentioned the things he's talking about, you know, particular terms on these new songs. Like they've been dropped throughout songs leading up to this. But I think, like, I agree. I think that, first of all, like if you're going to be edgy as an artist, it's like pretty difficult to actually be edgy. And there's really nothing edgier than this particular thing, like this area, this theme. Because look at the results. You know, he put it up and it's gone. It's gone everywhere. And there are, of course, other songs with similar titles and, you know, on Apple Music, for instance, just right there that are just blatant, you know, 80, like we said, like Screwdriver and stuff. But this is obviously, I think that one angle is that if he had a family and he like is a guy and he had a family and he had this fashion line and he was fine, you know, and he had all this stuff going, and then that fell apart. He can't see his kids. He gets bankrupted by a group of people. Then it would make sense to him that if they are capitalizing on the usual themes of rap music, for instance, then he would capitalize on the same thing, but in the inverse. And of course, that's going to get him like totally. It's going to go away. And I also think there's this weird thing with him. Like he was on Alex. He's buds with Fuentes now. His videos directed by Sneeko, and it's like he's gone completely into this you know, into an internet arena that is totally accessible to him. And you know, Ruckus, what you were saying about, you know, him being an artist and, you know, people got him wrong. I think that, like, first of all, the longevity of this guy's career is pretty amazing. Like, if he was having beefs and stuff with 50 Cent back in 2007, and, you know, I mean, where's he gone? And this guy's still putting stuff out and he's still relevant and all that stuff that they want to be. And he's still, you know, making a product that is gone immediately, but everyone knows about it. He's brilliant at marketing and all this stuff, but maybe the thing is that all this time it's like, yeah, this guy's crazy and all this stuff. And now we see that, yeah, he had these handlers. The record industry is totally, you know, has so much tyranny in it. You become a slave. He had that song. What was that song he had? It was called like I'm a Slave. Britney had a song called I'm a Slave for Love.
Yeah,
and
there's one on the Yeezus album called New Slaves that's pretty good.
That's right. And also, you know, each of his, I mean, I got to say, like, in terms of music, each of his albums, the first 3 albums were like 2000s era, you know, Rockefeller type, like rap, you know, pretty poppy stuff. And then he made the Dark Twisted Fantasy album, which was like electronic. Then he made 808s and Heartbreaks, which was completely like out of left field. Every electronic music act has a piece of that in it. He made Yeezus, which is like industrial techno, and it's totally unlike anything else. And he gets all the best people to work on this stuff, and each one is totally different. I mean, that's real. That's like he really does, you know, as far as you can, like push boundaries with his music. And it's also completely. It's funny because he's so much older now than, you know, popular pop stars and rappers and stuff. And like young people don't listen to people his age. Like they don't, if you bring up like somebody older, like Tupac or something, like they know who that is, but they don't, you know, that's your grandparents' music, but they know this and like it, you know, they hear it, it's in their sphere. And that alone is pretty wild. But like living in this electronic dungeon and, you know, having the Tate brothers come in and like, he's rapping about like the Matrix. And I mean, it's like, it's wild. It's wild that this is a thing and that it's sort of come to this, because where else is there to go, you know, in rap, for instance? Like there's nowhere else to go. This is like the edge of it all, I guess.
Nothing makes me feel more depressed and older than hearing you say that there are people that consider Tupac their grandparents' music.
Yeah. and Biggie, I mean, they know that name, but they don't listen to that. That means nothing to them. And if you say like Wu-Tang Clan, it's like, what?
I was just listening to some Wu-Tang Clan the other day.
Yeah. 36 Chambers.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. Well, they had changed their minds real quick if we nailed them down to a chair and made them listen to it, wouldn't they? Or am I just totally that old now? No,
not going to happen. Not going to happen. Also, TikTok is the music industry now, so
oh God,
it's got to be too. If a young person sees like 4 to 5 minutes, length on the song, they go, "What? No, there's no way." 4 minutes.
Have we come to that point already?
Kids don't know what you're missing out on. You haven't lived if you haven't listened to Opeth's Black Rose Immortal, all 19 minutes of it in headphones nonstop. But okay, fine, go do your TikTok.
I thought that I had noticed, because I've been listening to a lot of new music the past couple of years, and I'm like, am I tripping, or are the songs getting shorter? And I guess they really are.
They are.
Wow.
Yeah. Except there's a major resurgence. We like kind of got into this early, Hesher, like of shoegaze and like 90s type, not grunge, but that's like a big thing, like actual music with instruments. It's huge. All Under Heaven and Super Heaven and all those types of bands. Like Smashing Pumpkins.
These album recommendations, and I click on the album, and it's got like fucking 30 tracks, and the songs are like 2 minutes or less. So I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it's TikTok. That's TikTok. Yeah, that's Pink Panther-esque type 2-minute songs. That's as far as their stamina will take them.
Man, I'm down. Well, as a fan of grindcore, I'm down with that. You know what I mean? Like I used to listen to old AC albums. I don't even know if I can. Are we even allowed to say AC, the full name of that band, on YouTube? Probably not. I don't know. But those are like, some of those albums are like 20 seconds long. Some great. So I'm cool with that. I get it, but I don't know. That's probably
that belongs in a certain genre, but for all your musicians to adopt that as
it doesn't.
When I was in 9th grade, we had a punk band, and we played a Screeching Weasel song, and it was 10 seconds. We skate.
Right, like Napalm
song.
Death's "You Suffer," it's 6 seconds long, I believe.
Well, Mark brought up, he said something about Johnny, something with the war. And I thought of that book, Johnny Got His Gun, which is what Metallica's One is based on.
Yeah.
And they've actually they've heard of that, which is wild that like instrument rock music has come back and that rap music is now almost totally gone. There's Rod Wave and Youngboy and stuff, but like there's not really much. And everything is so brief, I mean, Glorilla is still around and all that, but it's just so brief. And one of the things with that is that like in the 90s when they had like, gangster rap and stuff, it's like, well, now that's come to actuality, and like rappers like are just, they live and then they're gone very quickly. Young Dolph, Pop Smoke, right?
Yep.
This is a trife life out there.
Yeah. When I just saw another one, a young guy, and I think he was in Georgia, maybe dead. Just you're a rapper, and you post stuff on Instagram. Cool. Well, I guess that means people are hunting you.
Yep. Juice WRLD.
Boosie's
still around. Yeah, Boosie's still around. He's gone viral again. Little Boosie.
Yeah.
What the hell? That's the big thing now.
Yeah. So
did you guys see this? Snoop Dogg did a new thing. Did you guys happen to catch this? It was like
a Whole Foods ad or something.
And it was a loose cover remake of he ruined this terribly. Last Dance with Mary Jane.
Oh yeah,
featuring Tom Petty. But all of the entire video was obviously, if I'm not mistaken, it was clearly AI generated, and I'm betting this, but the video was freaking crazy.
I did see that. Yeah,
but the song was terrible.
Yeah, I know.
He covered some Doors songs in the 2000s. So that was kind of set the stage.
This was like that, except worse.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg. The young people know Snoop Dogg from like the guy who is the spokesman for like America in the Olympics, or like in Amazon ads. They don't know that he has songs, which is, that's fine. He's made a whole second career out of being the guy who's like safe and ad friendly.
Oh, look, it's Martha Stewart's friend. What's his name?
He's the LA hood gangsta Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
Like
I
talk
bet they
about
know he smokes weed though.
talk about an unattainable goal. You know what I mean? Like they talk about all this stuff like, oh, I didn't know I could be that until I saw it on TV, or like, oh, this is misrepresented and it makes people that look like this certain way feel like they can't have that kind of, position or life that they're seeing on this fake show. Well, here comes Snoop Dogg. What what are you? What exactly kind of role model are you? Like, is there one thing about this guy's persona, his upbringing, uh, you know, through his entire
Well,
narrative that is like
well, I
something a
mean,
parent would want their kid to aspire to be?
well, one thing, I mean, I know that Snoop. One thing is that he's been married for since the mid '90s or something like that. He's got kids. He does all the football, the stuff and the charities. And it seems like he does all this media stuff because he's bankrolling it for his kids' future. I hope that's what it is. Because it's certainly not like murder was the case that they gave me right back in the day.
No.
I think his experiences with Suge Knight and all that, like in Death Row, and then when Tupac died, like that was really. I think there's a lot about that we still don't know, but Suge definitely is some sort of he's like some sort of devil guy. I mean, just really, not just like hanging Vanilla Ice off a balcony or whatever. It's like this guy, like you go into the studio and it's like, oh, you're going to get attacked by Rottweilers now.
Yeah. He's
While
still
we,
making headlines from jail, dude.
Yeah.
Spore showed me this headline the other day. It was like, and the headline was like, President Trump should pardon Diddy or something like that. And I was like, wait, what's the source on that? Read me that one. And she's like, yeah, apparently it's from a quote from Suge Knight. I'm like,
yeah, he's got a podcast.
he's behind bars, isn't he?
Yeah.
So they let him podcast from freaking jail.
Yeah. I think it's once a week, and he does it through like his lawyer or somebody.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah. By the way, that's a new thing. Like, there's a lot of people who have Instagrams and like they're Instagram and TikTok famous, and they're locked up.
Oh no!
Like lots of them,
dude. This is a new reality. What just happened?
Yeah. But it's like, okay, well, if you've got like the dirt on all this Diddy stuff and you've had it forever, then like, I hate it when they're like, yeah, I've known all this forever.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to speak. Well, I mean, come on, man.
Why you been sitting on it, man? Like, what good does it do us now?
But at least we know why Biggie had that one lyric about "you look so good." The lyric about sucking. I'm not going to say it, but about the girl's dad, which in the '90s when we heard that song, it was like, what the fuck is this? What is this one about? What is this part? And then everybody would go like, no, it's cool. He makes it cool. And I just always thought like, that's weird. That's a weird thing to have in the song, that particular lyric. Well, now we know why. Right. Because, Diddy wrote that lyric and produced it and said, you got to put this in here, I guess. But
oh man. Yeah.
And Diddy's cellmate is Sam Bankman-Fried.
Bankman-Fried, that's right.
That's the craziest. I mean, geez, you know this is all fake, right?
Yeah, why would you
Sam Bankman-Fried?
Why do you put two high-profile names like that in a room together in a situation like that? I just don't understand the logic.
Because Trump is president, and you're the media, and you need something to talk about and not get in trouble. I guess
I am the media.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also let's give all this, let's give this all the coverage, and then meanwhile, like Maxwell is just totally evaporated. There's nothing. There's nothing. There never will be anything.
Maxwell, who's that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Just kidding.
Oh man.
And then Virginia Giuffre. I mean, that happened this week.
My.
Yeah,
last
week.
A few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks, something like that.
I mean, come on, like.
Yeah, we were talking about Epstein before he got here, or maybe Randy was talking about.
What a disturbing trend we witnessed or heard about in our lifetimes, gentlemen, of how people who make every effort to tell the whole world that they will not kill themselves, they are not going so far as even tattooing it on their body in some cases, and then sure enough, we're being told that they took their own life. I'm not buying it.
Right. Sure. We're not. It would be very easy for them to prove it if it actually happened, but that's the other funny part. There's never any interest in proving that. Poor Janice McAfee never even got the report on John's passing, never got the autopsy, never got the police report. Last I heard, I don't even think she had his remains. Never able to see him. You know, it's just like
she got something, but I think it might have been personal effects,
Yeah.
maybe, if
Yeah.
that.
And she spent almost 2 years there, I think, a year and a half, something like that, trying to, out of her home country in Spain, trying to simply get those documents that would be normally available to anybody else.
Well, if you're one of these people and you know, the star whackers are coming from you and you go to another country, it's over, it seems.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're less
you know,
safe in another country,
yeah,
probably.
you're in the unofficial black site.
Yeah.
There's a good movie about this I saw recently, from Costa Gavras, like the French, is he French, director of the Battle of Algiers. It's called Missing, Jack Lemmon and Sissy Spacek. It's about Chile. A journalist goes missing, and like that the guy's been, helicoptered over Tierra del Fuego or whatever in the revolution. And they go through the process of like, he's like, where's my son? Where's my son? You know, he's not going to get him back. And he's talking to the CIA and they're like, well, who was he with? Can you give us their names and addresses? And Sissy Spacek is the only one who's clued in. She's like, no, you just want to go after them too if we give you the names. And the dad, Jack Lemmon, is like, he's so blind. He's like, just give him the names. You know, we want to find him. They show him a morgue with thousands of bodies in it. They're just walking around like nothing. His son's not in there. And then they never get him. And then at the end, he finally gets the body like a year later in a broken down box with a CIA stamp on it.
Oh, great. Yeah.
The disappeared ones.
Yeah.
So
Gouffre, that's pretty odd timing for her to be unalived herself. Does anybody think this is above board? I mean, I see people arguing that you can't make the argument that, there's a psyop afoot, but at the same time, like,
she was hit by a bus before this too.
Yeah, it seemed like she was in near misses or accidents a couple of times before this too. Like all little dodgy, sounds similar to other people whose stories I've heard.
Well, what adds legitimacy to it is the fact that if she did go through what she, went through, then yeah, that would be pretty hard to bear. That's the only thing. But what happened to Maria Farmer? Is she still? Hopefully she's still alive.
She's active on X still, but there's a small contingent of people who don't buy into her narrative, if I'm not mistaken. If it's the person I'm thinking it is, yeah. I don't know, but that's on you, the individual, to determine, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Because Virginia Giuffre, like her whole case was like, for instance, the photos. Even the photos, it was like, these are the photos you're using as evidence, and in the photos, she's not. I mean, we know that the people were younger than, for instance, she was in the. She's like 20 in the photos. So I guess even that alone, she can only go so far. And then Maria Farmer seemed like the opposite. Like, but all she had was her art. But her art was, the Podesta type stuff that was worse than the photos in the evidence that was submitted. And then she ends up like mysteriously with, terminal cancer or whatever. Right after that, that was weird. But then where's everybody else? I mean, where's everyone else? I guess working for Victoria's Secret or something, Well,
that's the thing, man. It's like there is so many other routes that, if Pam Bondi and all these, and company really wanted to make this right, they would be looking at the JP Morgan account transfers. They'd be looking at the foreign activities. They'd be looking at the influence peddling. They'd be looking at, they'd be looking at really, what would probably be legally found as treasonous, potentially treasonous, maneuverings. And it would reveal a network that would have politicians on from both sides on there. You know what I mean? So that's why they just. I think that's why they've halted this and they've shipped all these different agents to go, read every page of everything and watch every frame of every video and, destroy stuff and put black bars through stuff and say, maybe it's, have certain people saying, oh, maybe it's not that interesting. And other people saying, it's just, it's too much. It's a national security threat to, adjudicate or even make public this stuff. And that's just the kind of shit that sends people on the black pill right there, where it's like, okay, even if this was the Pandora's box that would expose everything, all the horrible, crimes and goings on of the intel agencies, the international banking cartels, the military industrial complex, politicians, and the media people, and whatever other lizard lords rotate around all those, they just can't blow the lid off the whole thing at once. And even if this was the thing that was going to do it, it's just like, no, we're not going to do it. Not going to do it. So,
yeah, and those have already passed. I mean, where are the ones that are happening right now?
yeah,
I mean, like the Dutroux affair, right? Which was the huge nationals. I mean, that is the same thing, and that happened. The results of that were live in, what was that, Belgium? But like things like this, and then Wexner, and then the Abercrombie guy or whatever, and then who was that guy in Canada who was a Jeff Stein McCaffrey character who was like, I mean, that guy was on camera. He was like, I love eating human ribs.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's the thing.
They're
all
like,
these
oh,
people.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then there's the Pritzkers. Don't forget the Pritzker family, who are like, entertainment moguls and governors or mayors and shit like that. I mean, it just goes in so many directions.
Bronfmans.
Yep,
Yeah.
Bronfmans. It goes and it ends up straight in like the Clintons' backyards and in Obama's backyard. The Pritzkers are the ones that funded Obama.
Obama's river property.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Terrible.
And it would go back to a bunch of current technocrats too that he was involved with. He was involved with, our friend Johnny Vedmore has done a lot of stuff on his connections to Elon and to other people in the technocratic sphere. I mean, this guy he was embedded, man. He was embedded all over the place.
Well, I mean, Steve Bannon of all, Steve Bannon did that recent interview, a couple of them, where he talked about with the technocrats and the new indentured servant class in Silicon Valley, and how this, like, the reality of all this stuff and how it's working. And it just seems like that. It just seems obvious that, Mark was talking earlier about the like synthetic problem reaction solution. The guy who's the head of Al Qaeda is the Moss is also a Moss guy. The Mumbai attacks were full of these usual actors, and it just seems that stretch that to somebody like Michael Jackson. You mentioned Michael Jackson. It's like, were we wrong about this guy too? I mean, they don't really care about us. Is the one of the songs that he actually wrote, and it seems like that he was making war on a particular group that would not let him out of this stuff. And then do you think that all the stuff that happened with him, that was also just, I mean, he was living in a Peter Pan, Neverland, like MK Ultra ranch or whatever. And that's weird. But was he more normal than I guess we've ever thought? Was he like actually normal in some way? I mean,
I think at this point, I think he was. I think that the claims against him were weaponized propaganda, wrought against him by the executives at Sony.
Yeah.
He has said as much. Prince had similar problems. And Macaulay Culkin and Corey Feldman, I think, are both great examples of men who grew up in as young people in the Hollywood industry and were abused in all the ways and know what that is, and they've been vocal about that, and they've both defended Michael Jackson. So I don't, and those two guys that HBO made that documentary around, they were very sus. They were very sus.
Guy, the one of the nerds on that Nerd Science show, the Big Bang Theory, one of those guys was on Norm Macdonald's podcast years ago, and he was like, "No, I was there too. He invited me. I was at the Neverland Ranch," and he was like, and he said that when people say the thing about like, oh, they slept in his bed, he was like, what you don't understand is that like the entire floor was a bed. He made the 10,000 square foot third floor a bed. Now that's also weird, but he was like, no, we went over there and we had a good time, and he hung out with us because they wouldn't let him hang out with anybody
everybody
else.
Doesn't have one of those. I think Diddy had one of those, didn't he?
Yep.
I think I saw pictures of that at the island where Epstein used. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it's funny you mentioned his properties because that's another thing. They only even looked at 2 of his like 4 or 6 properties. I mean, like what's that all about? Could you imagine like, you know, being the notorious like fill in the blank felon, you know, in some category and owning, you know, 4 to 6 different properties on U.S. territories, and the federal government, you know, you're being arrested on federal charge, and the federal government's only going to check 2 of your houses and film all this video of it. Like what the hell is that?
Yeah, well, he got that mansion in Manhattan, you know, for $1, so that's normal.
Yeah, I'm sure there's nothing interesting there.
The old FBI.
The one in New Mexico, the Zorro Ranch.
Yep.
Yeah. So our mutual friend in real life, Hesher, who you met, my good friend back in Albuquerque, he runs a paintball business. He does parties for where he'll go to people's properties and or pick an outdoor spot, and he'll provide paintball gear and guns and all the paintball and have a good old time and lead like capture the flag games and kill the zombies, smoke grenades. It's really neat.
Yeah.
But he did one not that long ago at the Zorro Ranch for the people who just recently purchased it. And he was not allowed to take any pictures or film anything. He had to sign like a non-disclosure agreement and all of this stuff. So and he didn't. I tried to squeeze information from him about the people, but he was just like, they're just normal people. And I'm just like thinking, yeah, they're normal people, but the place that they're living at is clearly, I mean, like they're probably, I mean, I wouldn't want to. Who wants to own one of these properties after what happened there?
They're normal people, but, you know, he brought paintball guns, but then they were like, what about real ones? And then, you know, and then we get some humans in here, you know, and instead of animals, you know, we'll have a big hunt. That's what Kathy O'Brien said.
Yeah.
Roseanne's best friend, Kathy O'Brien, who talked about the most dangerous game.
Good story.
Right. Yeah, and they made a number of movies out of stuff like that, like recent ones.
It's an excellent short story. I covered it. Go to my channel.
Yeah. Oh, Jason called out the ultimate long album there. Long song, I should say. One whole album out of one song. Dope Smoker by Sleep. 54 minutes. Yep, that might be the ultimate long song right there. Good one, dude.
I might actually listen to that one before the Kanye West song.
How about Fish's "You Enjoy Myself," man? That's
oh my god, how long is that? I don't know. I don't listen.
It's long as hell, and they play a vacuum cleaner in that song.
Oh my god,
so trippy.
Whoa, no, it's way too noodly for me. There's not enough psychedelic mushrooms on the planet to get me to listen to that. Probably,
dude. They transitioned into that song David Bowie in the middle. It's epic.
Oh no way. I'd go see it live, maybe with the flying. I want to see the, you know, that would be the one thing that would get me to a Fish concert. I want to see those flying whales and stuff.
I saw him 98 in Virginia Beach on Jerry's anniversary death day, and they played Terrapin Station.
Oh shit, dude!
It was pretty fun.
I bet. Yeah, I've heard them from the parking lot many times. I'll put it that way. I've not seen them live. I've heard them live from the parking lot.
I saw them at the Horde tour in like 93. They played with Blues Traveler and Rusted Root in a parking lot.
Oh my gosh.
I was there at the beginning, man. You guys should have been there.
Wow, you are an OG. No, I would not have been there, dude. I would have been like across the street at the dingy bar trying to see Sanctuary or something.
Oh yeah.
Real quick, because it's easier to just tell the person than type it. We do have a listener viewer asking when we go live. Well, Well, it varies, but it's definitely in the range of let's see. So Eastern time would be 9 to 10 p.m. ish, somewhere in there. You tune in right around there, and you'll probably be good to go, right? And it's every Thursday nights. There you go.
We're live now.
That's right. Yeah, they caught on to it, but they're like, I hate missing it live. Yes. Make sure. This is why you should go to the website, alternatecurrentradio.com, join our Discord server, because every time we're going to go live, ding, you get a nice little notification. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter /X, because we let you know ahead of time there. But yeah, usually it's right around that time. Usually we shoot for 9 p.m. Eastern, which is 8 p.m. Central, our time here. At the studio level, right, Hesher?
I recommend going back in the archives to the very beginning and watching every show.
There you go.
Heck yes.
Also, I find it helpful to have the Rumble app on my phone and subscribe to the channel on there. That seems to always YouTube also.
Turn notifications on, no matter what you use. If it's something you enjoy listening to or watching, really, it's 2025, people. Turn the notification on. It's not going to kill you. You'll thank yourself later.
Yeah, and hit the dang like buttons and subscribe buttons and all that if you're watching and stuff. Do the same on Baselit Analyzer's channel. It's a fantastic channel, and you should be subscribed over there. I don't know how much longer I'm going to make it tonight. I've got my entire security team in here looking at me.
Gotcha.
Like
I have two really big stories I
candy.
feel we need to quickly at least discuss. Did you guys see what happened with the RFK Jr. debacle?
Fill us in.
Ben of Ben and Jerry's has been arrested.
Okay, yeah.
What? No way.
Yeah, he caused awesome. Here, I sent you a link, Hesher, if you can grab it. But he caused a bit of a ruckus during RFK Jr.'s Senate testimony. And Ben Cohen, who is one of the co-founder of Ben and Jerry's, was doing the thing and calling out the Gaza shenanigans. And they dragged him out forcibly. It was like 2 or 3 cops to take him down. But yeah, that was quite the kerfuffle there with poor RFK Jr. having to hear that. He's just trying to talk about like making America healthy again. He's got to hear about this genocide in Gaza. I mean, poor guy. But luckily they arrested the culprit. There he is. Wow.
There he is, getting carried out.
He got arrested before he could banana split from that place.
Oh, I knew the puns were coming.
That's right.
Fish food.
They threw him in the cooler.
He was half baked.
So that was kind of all over the news lately. There's plenty of video of this, but it's the traditional, screaming outbursts, slamming of things, and people yelling, and whatever. Good stuff, though. But I mean, again, I mean, cheese and crackers. I mean, we wouldn't have to probably interrupt these things if we were allowed to openly discuss them on social media and our various outlets that we tend to do these things, right? Without fear of repercussions from our friends, family, workplaces, etc.
RFK was like, I was bad at school before I tried heroin. He said classic clip.
Oh my God.
So here's what Ben Cohen said. He said, quote, Congress kills poor kids in Gaza by buying bombs and pays for it by kicking kids off Medicaid in the United States. They need to let food into Gaza. They need to let food into starving kids, end quote. So that's what he said, and that's what got him dragged out by the USCP officers that you see there on the screen.
And yet I'm sure he's a staunch supporter of Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
To be fair, when you cause these outbursts, it doesn't even matter what the F you're saying. It's just the fact that you're doing this that's going to get you arrested. But good for him, because again, I mean, this is cheese and crackers. I mean, we got kids dying because we're not giving them food. So I would do the exact same damn thing. I mean, any platform, anywhere that I had the opportunity outside of what we do here, we clearly talk about it and condone it for 5 million ways from now till Sunday, especially on Sunday Wire. Patrick Henningsen leading the charge on some of that, of course.
You mean condemn it, right?
Well, but I mean, like, this is why I love the UFC fighters, or like the people who win a sports event. Like during the COVID, we saw like this is the only. How come this is the only time where we're hearing like people come out and say what they're really feeling, and it seems like they feel like that's their only opportunity to do so. I feel like society shouldn't be putting us into this kind of box where we have to go cause a scene just to be heard. That's ridiculous. This is America. We're supposed to have free speech. We have all these wonderful platforms and soap boxes available. I mean, we can go out in public with a sandwich sign and ring a bell if we want to, but like, it's falling on deaf ears. So kudos to Mr. Ben Cohen for at least making the effort to continue to bring attention to one of the most important issues of our lifetime.
Yeah. Absolutely. So that video's out there. We'll link to this article on the
But
show
don't they have a
page.
plan? Because Trump said he was going to turn Gaza into, like, everyone was going to work for Panera Bread or something.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Trump, because that was the other big news story this week, of course, as you can tell from the graphic there behind Hesher. He's hanging out with the Saudis. That was in that area of the world where he was lauding the head shopper, if I'm not mistaken, just a day or two ago. But did you guys catch on to that? I just saw wind of this earlier today, and I was like, of course. So as the kids in Gaza are starving, mind you, check out this article, Hesher, from Newsweek. So before Trump went down for his visit to Saudi Arabia, they had to get ready and roll out the red carpet alongside the mobile McDonald's, of course.
Hell yeah.
The mobile McDonald's. Lovely.
Awesome.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, this is add insult to injury, clown show upon clown show. I'm guessing it's because of the popularity of the meme, the fact that he worked at McDonald's. Maybe they thought, like, oh, it's the guy who owns McDonald's. He's coming here. We should roll out some mobile McDonald's for him. Yeah, I don't know.
Old McDonald? They have those greenlit all over the place, because whenever we go to war, that's the first thing they put up.
And was met at the airport by Saudi Crown Prince.
See what we got here.
U.S. President Donald Trump has arrived in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He came in on Air Force One and was met at the airport by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the kingdom's de facto ruler. The Crown Prince was smiling and animated as he spoke to Trump. They shared Arabic coffee at the airport, and then Trump took off for lunch and also to come here, which is going to host an investment forum that's going to see Trump speak at it. Now, this visit for Trump is focused a lot on business. The Saudi Crown Prince has said that he wants to invest some $600 billion in the United States over the next 4 years.
Why is $500 and $600 billion always the number? Why do we keep seeing these numbers? Oh, Apple's going to give us $500 billion. Hyundai's investing $600 billion. These guys with their AI thing investing $600 billion. What is with these $600 and $500 billion chunks we keep seeing?
Well, it used to be 6 million was the number.
Yeah. Now that's just like chump change, man. Ye can make a video called HH for like that much money or less, and it's no big deal. Does this video talk about the McDonald's factor, or is that just a waste of our time?
It should have been a Burger King, because Crown Prince.
Ooh.
The videos on these articles are never to do with the article. I thought everyone realized this by now.
Yeah, I know. We're getting
But you
burned
did
on.
notice that, like, of all these scenes and videos that we've seen of Trump descending down the stairs from Air Force One, he's descending the stairs of Air Force One and not tripping up them like our previous president. So that is a refreshing sight.
Yeah, the mobility is quite refreshing indeed.
Well, when he got down there and the Crown Prince was driving around in the John Deere, vehicle, and like there were just random dudes jumping on the back of it.
They're all having a good time. Man, Saudi Arabia just looks like a giant playground for adults, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would. Well, I mean, they say that Dubai is not what. Yeah, Dubai is like it appears to be this big playground, but it's like the rules are. I don't know. The rules make it not fun unless you're a billionaire there, I guess. But you can go to Saudi Arabia and you can drift, right? You can buy a Ferrari and drift around and wear those clothes, and it's you can. I don't know. I know that in the book
how did
about
they get so rich again? Someone remind me.
Well, the biography of the House of Getty talks about all that stuff. When Getty went over there and like went to the desert and was like, we're going to buy all this for nothing because there's this thing called oil. And they were like, we don't know what that is. And then they found it and then they made the deal. And that's resulted in all of this, which is weird because, you know, part of World War I was fighting over this territory. Same thing. Also, I learned that the line, the city, you know, the line, the Mega City
Neom?
Neom.
Yeah, Neom. I didn't know that it was in the spot where in Lawrence of Arabia, remember the guy's like, what this desert is hellish, right? They have to attack through the desert rather than going around. That's where it is.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, it's like one of the gnarliest spots, and it's displacing like the tribal people that live there, like that have lived there since those times, since before those times. Like they're all basically getting thrown out.
Well, is
while they
that
build this thing?
Are they building this because they intend to populate it with the people in Gaza?
I don't know.
If
I
they
don't think
get-
so,
I mean-
man. I don't think so. It's got super yacht parking, so it's not going to have any Palestinians there. Unfortunately, I would be my guess. They're not going to be invited. I heard they're
Well,
making it.
they might get some nice reparations for the way they've been treated horribly. I could see Trump pushing for something like that. I don't know.
Perhaps. I don't know, man. If they could just like make it stop first and then maybe start having those conversations, that would be awesome. But
What am I talking about? I just saw a news story earlier today about how Kristi Noem is backing a reality TV show where immigrants compete for fast tracking to U.S. citizenship. So, you know, I my hopes are not very high for this world currently.
They won't be South Africans.
No,
yeah,
those people are probably those people have like hordes of I don't know. There are people threatening to kill them. Apparently, oddly enough, you go figure.
yeah, that's crazy, dude.
I'm not gonna go there.
This thing dude, this thing, hold on, I gotta I gotta read this to you guys. This was crazy. Creative Accidents dropped this in our general chat in the Discord about this town here in Texas. This is the craziest crap. I can't freaking believe it. Boy, did I scroll too far? I'm gonna have to find this in the Discord. Where'd it go? Creative Accidents. I think I went way too far here. Apologies. Let me find this thing. Am I even in the right chat? There we go. Okay, so this town apparently has been giving money to Israel. San Marcos City Council rejects Gaza ceasefire resolution in 5-2 vote. How confusing is that just as a headline? This is out of CBS Austin. If you don't believe me, you can look it up. It was published May 7th by Stephanie Becerra. Headline: San Marcos City Council rejects Gaza ceasefire resolution in 5-2 vote. After hours of heated debate and public comment, the San Marcos City Council rejected a resolution calling for the government to stop funding Israel's war in Gaza. Some council members point out more than $4 million of San Marcos taxpayer dollars have been sent to Israel and argue the money could be better spent on issues at home. Holy cow. And then this one, here's another headline. This one's out of Spectrum Local. Governor Greg Abbott says San Marcos faces defunding over anti-Semitic Israel ceasefire resolution. I kid you not. These are all quotes, the headlines. This one was published on April 30th by Kelsey Leffingwell, again in Spectrum. And then out of that one, Abbott says in his letter that the ceasefire resolution is claiming that approximately $4.4 million in San Marcos resident taxes were sent to Israel. It now seeks to redirect those funds from Israel's military towards essential domestic priorities.
That's
unbelievable. Why? So our buddy Session Jones fixes this for us. He asks all the questions. I think he's out there listening. What's up, buddy? He says, so many questions, Creative Accidents. Why the fuck is some random town in Texas sending over $4 million to Israel? How does not sending them money anymore equate to a boycott? Why are they calling the resolution a Gaza ceasefire resolution as if this random town I've never ever heard of has any influence on a ceasefire? Call it what it is, a not giving away our citizens money resolution. How is the law against boycotts not unconstitutional? Why are the people of this community letting this robbery continue? That post created more questions than answers.
You can hurt yourself wrapping your brain around this one.
That'll do it.
That would have been the prime time for Alex Stein to be at a city council meeting.
Dude, yes. Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm glad we got to cover that. I want to thank Kathleen Owen and Badger and our patrons for their support this month, and anyone I may have forgotten. Appreciate you folks. We are self-funded, used and listener and viewer funded around here. So if you like what you see, you can find out more. You can buy t-shirts, all that good stuff at our website, alternatecurrentradio.com. We got all the support links up there for you, and we appreciate your support. And I think we're going to wind it down here. I'll go around the room. Ruckus, we got any more stories we need to hit before we jump out of here?
No, I don't. I got nothing.
I got it. It's because they don't want a war on Torah. Okay. That didn't work. Damn it.
It was a good try.
Okay.
All right. Ruckus, saved rounds, final thoughts. We'll get ourselves out of here, man.
Yeah, no, I really got nothing left in the tank. Been making the rounds, as I indicated there, of course. So make sure you go to the website for Roundabout Ruckus, which is just my appearances in other podcasts and programs, excluding ACR programs, of course. So you got my most recent appearance on Weaponized News. Last week I was on Third Rail, hosted by Nature Boy. I was alongside Brad Binkley. That was fun. I was also last week on Sunday Wire, and of course Boiler Room last week. So there's been a lot of ruckus everywhere except the Daily Ruckus, of course. And I have picked up some work, so I'm very busy trying to make money and keep a roof over my head and put food in my stomach right now. So yeah, my Daily Ruckus has fallen by the wayside temporarily, but I'm working on it when I can. I have some big plans for the last 2 additions to my latest series I was working on that will probably definitely blow your mind as soon as I pull the trigger on it. So it's definitely worth the wait. Let's just put it that way. In the meantime, you'll find me doing all these other fun things. And I've also been, since I picked up work, please hit me up. I'm word slinging again. So if you are a business owner, a small business owner, an entrepreneur, an individual, maybe you're a podcaster, you stream video games on Twitch, you got a YouTube channel, you need help writing words, you need cool graphics done, you need help interacting with the AI and you don't know how to do it, hit me up. I do consultations. I do work for you. I'll get your stuff done. Maybe you want a Facebook page for your local business and you're just like, I hate Facebook. Hit me up. Okay. I don't charge a lot, but it would sure help me out if you send me some work. If you don't know somebody who can use one of those services. Okay. So yeah, just send me an email, probably just to the ruckus@alternatecurrentradio.com. Easiest way to get a hold of me. Otherwise, you'll find me active on my X account where I do a lot of fun stuff. I'm AC_wordslinger over there. So between the X and alternatecurrentradio.com, what else do you need to know? Probably nothing. Thanks so much for having me. It's been a blast. It was nice to hang out with Randy J. It was neat getting that graphic made for him in a heartbeat. That was made by AI, full disclosure. So there we have it. I will see you guys probably maybe this weekend for Sunday Wire. If not, catch me on Weaponized News next week on Monday and right here on the Boiler Room next week. God bless each and every one of you, and may God save this republic. Ruckus out.
All right. Thanks, Ruckus. Baze, over to you, my dude. Saved rounds, final thoughts, anything you want to throw out there? Where can people find you? What do you got coming up? And thanks so much for being here with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, everybody check me out at Baseline Analyzer on YouTube. I'm doing a series multi-part series on C.S. Lewis. I just started with The Magician's Nephew. I'm doing the whole Narnia series. I'll be doing The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe next. I'm covering biographies, probably Surprised by Joy, the Space Trilogy, Till We Have Faces, lots of C.S. Lewis, if you are into that. Also a bunch of streams coming up when Jay and Jamie get back from their trip. We're going to cover Nicolas Cage's The Surfer. Also, I'm going to get some shouts out to my friends. Jay and Jamie are out in California. Check Jay out on the Whatever podcast. He just
That's
was on
so
there.
good, dude. I was cracking up at that.
Very good. Yeah, he and Jim Bob were on there. They've been on there multiple times. Check out Rachel and Andrew Wilson. They've been doing a lot of stuff. Also, shouts out to my friend David Patrick Harry at Church of the Eternal Logos on YouTube. He just got his PhD, so congratulations to him. And yeah, lots more movies and books coming up. It's about to be summertime for me. I'm finishing the academic year, and I'll be writing a screenplay over the summer. So I can't wait to share that with people. And that's about it. So check me out on YouTube. Thanks, man.
All right. Well, it was great having you here tonight. See you later. That's Baselit Analyzer, everybody. And thanks for being here tonight. It was a really fun show. Went into a little bit of overdrive, and we'll look forward to seeing you next Thursday for another episode of Boiler Room. See you on Sunday for a Sunday Wire, and hope you have a great rest of your week. Be sure and catch Mark Anderson on UK Column tomorrow, pretty early in the morning if you're in the U.S., but you can always go to ukcolumn.org to catch up on those. Check out thepulse.today. Myself and Basil still working over there at the Pulse and making some changes over there. So check us out over there. Mike Ryan's show is keeping everybody up to date in the meantime. And that's it for this edition of Boiler Room. We'll see you next time. Again, hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
That's it. Go ahead and run. Run home and cry to mama.